The Galactic Union's assembly chamber floated above a bright blue gas giant named Soren 6. It was a massive station the size of Small Moon. Inside, hundreds of alien representatives had gathered to make a final decision about Earth. The chamber lights dimmed as the speaker floated to the center. Its skin was glassy and pale like wet stone. It had no mouth, but its voice echoed in every mind. We have heard all arguments. We have seen Earth's past. We have watched its wars, its pollution, its hunger for power. The risk is too great. Earth's place among us is denied. A murmur filled the chamber. Some nodded. Others stayed silent. But none spoke in Earth's defense. The speaker continued. By unanimous vote, Earth is exiled. All contact with Earth is forbidden. All travel to and from Earth is blocked. Humanity is cut off from the Union. The decision was final. Far away, orbiting above Earth, Commander Eric Holt stood in silence. He watched the broadcast on the bridge of his station, Horizon Command. The crew around him stared at the screen, not saying a word. Eric crossed his arms and took a deep breath. He had served in Earth's military all his life. He had hoped the day would never come. But deep down, he had always known this was likely. The Union had never trusted humanity. Earth had tried to prove itself for years, sending diplomats, offering science, sharing technology. But the Union had always seen the wars, the greed, the chaos. Humanity's past had followed them to the stars. Eric turned to his communications officer. Open a secure line to Central Command. Back on Earth, in the underground headquarters of the Global Defense Council, leaders from every nation waited for the call. The room was dark, with glowing screens showing the solar system. The main screen lit up with Eric's face. They've made their decision, he said. Counselor Rivers, one of Earth's top leaders, nodded slowly. We heard it, she replied. We knew this was coming. She leaned forward, her voice low and serious. We have to move to Phase 2. Are the fleets ready? Eric's face hardened. They've been ready for years. The Council gave the order. The Exodus Protocol was active. The Exodus Protocol was Earth's secret plan. While the world had been sending peace missions to the Union, they had also been preparing for war. In hidden shipyards across the Moon and Mars, they had built powerful warships. They had reverse-engineered alien tech. They had trained soldiers and pilots in secret. They called it the Exodus Armada. Later that day, Eric boarded his personal shuttle and left Horizon Command. He flew toward the largest hidden dock near the dark side of the Moon. As the shuttle approached, the dock doors opened. Inside, dozens of warships waited in silence. Massive engines, heavy armor, advanced weapons. Eric stood in awe for a moment. He had seen the plans for years, but seeing the ships in person was something else. This was humanity's last hope. When he reached the command deck, his top officers gathered around. Welcome to the Exodus Armada. Admiral, Chun greeted him. Eric nodded. Begin fleet checks. I want every ship ready to move. Chun hesitated. Do you really think we can win, Commander? Eric looked out the wide window, staring at Earth hanging in the distance. The planet looked so peaceful. No one below had any idea what was coming. We don't have a choice, Eric answered. We either fight or die in exile. He knew the Union's blockade would tighten soon. They would send warships. They would cut Earth off completely. Eric wasn't going to let that happen. He wouldn't wait to be told twice. Humanity would not sit in the dark while the galaxy closed its doors. They would fight for their future. And it all started now. The fleet hung in the dark like silent giants. Rows of warships stretched for kilometers. Carriers, destroyers, cruisers, and frigates, all hidden on the far side of the Moon. Their metal hulls reflected no light. Their engines stayed cold, waiting for the order to ignite. Commander Eric Holt stood on the command deck of the Iron Heart, the largest battleship in the fleet. It was the heart of the Exodus Armada. Around him, officers worked quietly at their stations. The air felt heavy. Everyone knew the next hours would decide everything. Eric's second in command, Admiral Chun, walked up to him. All systems green, Chun reported. Weapons charged. Engines ready. Crews are in position on all ships. Eric nodded, but didn't speak right away. He stared at the fleet status board. Over 70 warships, fully armed. Years of hidden work had brought them here. He knew they had one advantage, the element of surprise. The Union believed Earth had no power to fight back. Eric planned to prove them wrong. Hours later, Eric gathered the fleet's senior officers in the briefing room. The room was simple: metal walls, a single long table, and a holographic map of the solar system floating in the center. Eric stood at the head of the table. "We all heard the Union's vote," he began. His voice was steady but carried weight. "They've sentenced Earth to isolation. They've shut every door on us." He looked around the table, meeting every officer's eyes. "I won't let them choke us in the dark," Eric continued. "We've built this fleet to break the chains before they lock us in. This is our only chance." Admiral Chen leaned forward. "Do we have orders from the Council?" Eric nodded. "Full military command has been given to the Exodus Armada. Earth's leaders believe in this mission, but they won't be joining us. If we fail, Earth will claim we acted alone. They hope the Union will show mercy." Several officers exchanged uneasy looks. Eric held up his hand. "That doesn't matter. We're not doing this for politics. We're doing this for survival." Admiral Dario, in charge of the fleet's engineering corps, spoke next. "The Union's blockade fleet is still gathering beyond Mars," he explained. "They think they have time. We have a narrow window to strike first. If we reach Mars before they finish setting up, we might punch through." Eric nodded. "That's the plan. We hit hard, we move fast, and we get out before they lock us down." Admiral Chun frowned. "What about Earth? We can't leave them undefended." "We aren't leaving Earth," Eric said firmly. "We're buying time. If we break the blockade, Earth can build more fleets, open new routes, and stay alive. If we wait here, the Union will surround us, and we'll never leave." Tensions rose in the room. Some officers agreed. Some doubted. One captain, Marcos, spoke up. "Commander, are we sure about this? We'll be outnumbered, outgunned. If we fail, humanity might lose everything." Eric walked to the holographic map. He pointed to Earth. "Look at our home," he said. "Billions of lives trapped on one planet. No trade, no contact, no future. The Union calls that peace. I call it slow death." He pointed to the fleet. "We've spent years building this. We didn't come this far to back down now. I won't wait for permission to save my people." Silence filled the room. No one had any more doubts. As the officers left to prepare their ships, Eric stood alone by the window. He watched the planet below. He wondered how many people down there had any idea their future was being decided right now. He thought about his family, his mother, who had died believing the Union would accept humanity, his brother, lost in one of Earth's last wars, his friends who never made it to see the stars. Eric clenched his fists. He would not let Earth become a dead world, locked in isolation forever. Far beyond the moon, on the other side of the solar system, the Union's blockade ships floated near Mars. Director Zaurix stood on the bridge of his flagship, Vorex Prime. His tall, thin body was covered in armored plates. His long, black eyes watched the stars. A Union officer approached. "No activity from Earth yet, Director." Zaurix did not turn. His voice was calm, but sharp. "They're planning something. Humanity never accepts defeat quietly." He raised his hand, signaling to tighten the perimeter. "Double patrols. Prepare all fleets to move. I want Earth locked down before they try anything." Zaurix knew humanity. He had studied them for decades. He had seen their wars, their ambition, their stubbornness. He did not believe Earth would sit quietly in the dark. Back on the Iron Heart, Eric stood on the bridge. "Prepare the fleet," he ordered. "We launch in 6 hours." The engines of the Exodus Armada hummed to life. Lights glowed on every ship. Crews rushed to their stations. Humanity was done waiting. Commander Eric Holt stood on the bridge of the Iron Heart. The countdown had already started. In less than an hour, the Exodus Armada would leave the moon's shadow and reveal itself to the galaxy. Eric looked out at the fleet. The ships were alive now. Engines rumbled softly. Lights ran along the hulls. Crews filled the decks, ready for whatever came next. This was it. There would be no turning back. Admiral Chen stepped up beside him. "All ships report ready, Commander. We're just waiting on your word." Eric nodded slowly. His heart was heavy, but his mind was clear. Bring the fleet online, he ordered. In seconds, the quiet space around the moon lit up. The blacked-out ships powered their engines. Thrusters fired. The Exodus Armada moved out of hiding and headed straight toward Mars. Eric opened a fleet-wide channel. This is Commander Holt. We're no longer hiding. We're no longer waiting. Today, humanity takes its future into its own hands. Stay sharp. Stay strong. Move as one. We will not be stopped. Across the fleet, captains repeated his words to their crews. Pilots tightened their grips on controls. Gunners checked their weapons one last time. Every soldier knew what was at stake. The fleet moved fast, leaving Earth far behind. But they were not alone. Hidden among the rocks near the asteroid belt, a Union scout ship named Veners, I watched the fleet. Its long-range sensors caught the heat signatures. Its pilot, a gray-skinned alien with bright yellow eyes, sent an urgent message to the Union blockade near Mars. The pilot spoke quickly. Human fleet detected. Large. Armed. Moving toward Mars. The message reached Director Zaurix on the Vorax Prime moments later. His cold black eyes narrowed. So, they've made their move. He turned to his officers. Send a warning. Tell them to stop, or we will destroy them. The officer nodded and prepared the transmission. Zaurix's thin fingers tapped on the control rail. He had expected humanity to fight. What he hadn't expected was their size. The fleet was larger than he had thought possible. He couldn't allow them to pass. Back on the Iron Heart, Eric received the Union's warning. The message played on the bridge speakers. This is Director Zaurix of the Ketheri Dominion, speaking for the Galactic Union. You are ordered to stop your advance and return to Earth. You are in violation of the Exile order. Stand down or be destroyed. The crew waited in silence for Eric's response. He leaned toward the console and spoke clearly. This is Commander Holt of the Exodus Armada. We will not stop. We will not be exiled. We claim our right to survive. He cut the transmission. The scout ship that had spotted them was still in their path. Eric turned to Chun. Take out. The Ironheart's forward cannons lit up. A beam of blue energy shot across space and struck the small scout ship. The Veners Eye exploded into dust. The fleet pushed forward. Hours passed. The Union blockade came into view near Mars. Dozens of Union warships, larger and more advanced than Earth's. They moved into attack formation, blocking the path to deep space. Admiral Chun studied the enemy on the tactical map. They have more firepower than we do, Commander. Eric nodded. He already knew that. But we have something they don't, Eric said. He pointed to the asteroid field just ahead of them. Cover. Eric ordered the fleet to split into 3 groups. The main force would draw the Union's attention. The second group would flank through the asteroid field. The third group, led by Eric himself, would strike the Union command ships. The fleet moved fast. The Union ships charged to meet them. Space lit up with energy blasts. Cannons roared. Missiles streaked through the void. The battle had begun. Eric's group took heavy fire. Shields flared. Hulls cracked. One of their cruisers exploded, sending debris flying. But the flank teams moved into position. They used the asteroids for cover, slipping behind the Union's main force. Admiral Chun sent the signal. All units, strike now. The flank teams launched their attack. Union ships turned in confusion, splitting their lines. Eric saw the opening. Full speed ahead, he shouted. The Ironheart charged toward the Union's command ships. Enemy fire rained down on them, but Eric kept pushing. Another Earth ship was hit and tore apart. Another followed, but Eric's ship broke through the enemy lines. He targeted the Union command cruiser Cerex. The Ironheart's cannons fired again and again, ripping into the enemy's hull. Explosions ripped through the cruiser until it finally broke apart. The Union formation started to fall apart. The Exodus Armada didn't stop. They pressed forward, taking losses but forcing their way past the blockade. The price was high. Ships were destroyed. Crews were lost. But humanity's fleet made it through. Mars was behind them now. Ahead was deep space. Open, unclaimed, unknown. Eric stood on the bridge, breathing hard. The battle was over, but the war was not. He knew Zaurix would not let them go easily. More enemies would come. But tonight, humanity had won their first fight. Eric turned to his crew. We're not done yet. set course for the edge of the system. The Exodus Armada burned toward the stars. The Exodus Armada moved deeper into space. Behind them, the wreckage of the battle near Mars drifted in silence. Ships burned quietly in the distance, their lights fading. The cost had been high, but they had survived. Commander Eric Holt stood on the bridge of the Iron Heart. The crew around him worked quietly. No one cheered. No one smiled. They had made it through the blockade, but they all knew this was just the beginning. Admiral Chun checked the fleet status report. "We've lost 12 ships," Chun said quietly. "Hundreds of crew gone." Eric nodded slowly. He felt the weight of every life lost. "What about the survivors?" Eric asked. "Rescue teams are bringing them in," Chun replied. "But some ships were completely destroyed. No signals, no survivors." The bridge stayed silent. Eric knew the risks. Everyone on board had known them. Still, it didn't make it easier. Later, Eric called a meeting with his senior officers. They gathered once again in the Iron Heart's briefing room. The holographic map of the solar system glowed in front of them. "We've broken the blockade," Eric started. "But the Union won't stop. We're too close to their space." Admiral Dario leaned forward. "We could change course. Move toward the outer systems. Go dark again." Eric shook his head. "We can't run forever. They'll find us." He pointed to the edge of the map beyond the known systems. "We go further, past Union territory, past their reach. There's unclaimed space beyond the fringe worlds. That's where we need to go." The officers exchanged worried glances. It was a long journey. Supplies were limited. The fleet had already taken heavy damage. Captain Marcos spoke first. "We'll need to refuel. Rearm. We don't have enough to make that jump." Admiral Chin nodded in agreement. "We'll have to stop somewhere." Eric took a deep breath. "We stop at the Union supply station near Titanus. It's risky, but it's our best shot." Titanus was a frozen planet with a Union station orbiting it. It wasn't heavily defended, but it held fuel, food, and parts. If they moved fast, they could take what they needed and keep going. The officers didn't like it, but they knew Eric was right. As the fleet changed course, a scientist named Dr. Keller requested a private meeting with Eric. She was one of the lead engineers who had worked on the Exodus protocol. Eric met her in the lower decks, near the ship's science lab. Dr. Keller wasted no time. "Commander, you need to see this." She brought up a display showing schematics of a secret weapon. Eric stared at the image. It was a large black sphere pulsing with energy. "This is the Titan device," Keller explained. "We built it from stolen Union tech. It can release a gravity pulse strong enough to crush entire fleets." Eric frowned. "I thought the Council shut that project down." "They did," Keller admitted. "But we finished it in secret." She looked at Eric seriously. "It's fully armed. One shot, one target. We could wipe out the Union's blockade fleet. We could win." Eric felt his stomach tighten. He knew what this meant. The weapon was too powerful, too dangerous. If they used it, they might win the battle, but the galaxy would never forgive them. Back on the Vorex Prime, Director Zaurix received reports of humanity's new course. His officers told him about Titanus. "They're heading for the supply station," one officer reported. Zaurix narrowed his eyes. He knew what humanity planned to do: resupply and run. But Zaurix had already moved his second fleet into position. The humans were walking into a trap. Hours later, the Exodus Armada reached Titanus. The Union station floated in orbit, quiet and unaware. Eric ordered the fleet to strike fast. Dropships launched. Teams boarded the station, disabling its defenses in minutes. They filled the fleet's storage with fuel, food, and parts. It was quick and clean. No blood spilled. No alarm sounded. But Eric knew the Union was coming. As the fleet pulled away, the sensors lit up. "Commander, incoming ships!" Admiral Chin shouted. Dozens of Union warships dropped out of light speed. The second blockade fleet had arrived. Eric stood on the bridge, staring at the enemy ships closing in. He had two choices: run or use the Titan device. He looked at Dr. Keller's image on the screen. Her words echoed in his mind. "We could win, but at what cost?" Eric clenched his fists. If they ran, the Union would hunt them down again. If they fought, they risked becoming the very monsters the Union feared. There was no turning back now. The Exodus Armada floated above Titanus, fully loaded with stolen supplies. But now they were trapped. Dozens of Union warships surrounded them on all sides. On the bridge of the Iron Heart, alarms echoed. Red lights flashed. Officers rushed to battle stations. The enemy was closing fast. Commander Eric Holt stood at the center of the chaos. His mind raced as he stared at the tactical display. The Union's second blockade fleet had arrived quicker than he expected. Admiral Chen spoke over the noise. "Commander, we're outnumbered 2-1. We won't make it through." Eric didn't answer right away. His eyes stayed locked on the display. He knew the truth. Running wasn't an option anymore. The Union would crush them before they could escape. He turned to Dr. Keller's face on the communication screen. "The Titan device, is it ready?" Keller nodded slowly. "It's armed and locked on the Union fleet." "But Commander, if we use it, the energy pulse will spread. Our ships aren't far enough away. We'll take damage too." Eric already knew that, but they had no choice left. It was this or watch the fleet die. He turned to Admiral Chun. "Prepare to deploy the Titan device." The bridge fell silent. The officers stared at Eric. Some looked afraid. Some looked unsure. But none spoke against the order. They trusted him. They knew the stakes. Deep in the lower hangar, engineers loaded the Titan device into the launch chamber. It was a black sphere, larger than a dropship, humming with unstable energy. The chamber lights turned red. The countdown began. On the Vorex Prime, Director Zaurix watched as the human fleet made no move to run. His dark eyes narrowed. "They're up to something," he said quietly. One of his officers spoke. "Should we open fire?" Zaurix shook his head. "Not yet. Wait for their move." He didn't know what Eric was planning, but he knew it wasn't surrender. The countdown on the Iron Heart reached 0. "Device ready to launch," Dr. Keller reported. Eric took one final breath. Fire. The Titan device launched from the Iron Heart like a black comet. It streaked toward the center of the Union fleet. The Union ships detected it too late. Zaurix's eyes widened. "Intercept that weapon. Now!" Union ships fired at the device, but their shots bounced off its energy field. Nothing could stop it. The device reached the center of the fleet and stopped. It pulsed once, twice, then exploded in a wave of invisible force. The shockwave hit everything in its path. Union ships buckled under the pressure. Hulls shattered. Engines tore apart. Ships twisted and broke like glass. But the shockwave didn't stop with the Union fleet. It kept going, rushing toward the Exodus Armada. Eric grabbed the railing as the Iron Heart shook violently. Warning lights flashed everywhere. Systems overloaded. Shields cracked. One of Earth's cruisers exploded. Another spun out of control, its engines burning. The entire fleet rocked under the force. Metal groaned. Debris flew through space. When the shockwave finally passed, silence returned. On the bridge, the crew slowly got back to their stations. Smoke filled the air. Sparks fell from broken panels. Admiral Chun wiped blood from his forehead. "Damage report." Officers rushed to check systems. "We've lost 5 more ships," someone shouted. "Shields down to 30%. Engines holding, but barely." Eric looked at the tactical display. The Union fleet was gone. What was left of it drifted in ruins. Fires burned in the dark. The Titan device had worked, but the price had been higher than Eric expected. On the Vorex Prime, Zaurix stood on a ruined bridge. His ship had taken heavy damage, but it had survived. He stared at the wreckage of his fleet. His jaw tightened with cold anger. He turned to his officers. "Send a message to the Union Council. Tell them Earth has declared war on the galaxy." Back on the Iron Heart, Eric stood in the silence. His crew waited for the next order. He knew what they had done. He knew what the Union would call them now. Terrorists, monsters, criminals. But Eric didn't care about titles. He cared about survival. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "We did what we had to do," Eric said. His voice was low but steady. "We're still alive. We're still moving. And we're not stopping." He pointed to the navigation screen. "Set course beyond Union space. We leave this galaxy behind." The Exodus Armada turned away from the wreckage and started its long journey into the unknown. But Eric knew this wasn't over. The Union would chase them. Zaurex would never let them go without a fight. There was one last move left to make. The Exodus Armada limped through deep space, pushing its damaged ships forward. Lights flickered across the fleet. Engines struggled. Shields were weak. The Battle of Titanus had cost them more than they had expected. Commander Eric Holt stood in silence on the bridge of the Iron Heart, staring at the wreckage shown on the rear sensors. His decision to use the Titan device had saved them, but at a terrible cost. Dozens of their own ships were gone. Hundreds of lives lost. He knew what the galaxy would say. He had crossed the line. He had done what the Union feared most. He had proven them right. Admiral Chun stood beside him. Commander, the fleet's barely holding together. If they hit us again, we won't survive. Eric nodded, not looking away from the display. They will hit us again. Chun sighed. Then we need to finish this before they do. Back on the Vorex Prime, Director Zaurex prepared for his final move. His fleet was damaged, but his pride had taken the hardest blow. He had underestimated humanity. Now he would end them. His ship had tracked the Exodus Armada. They were headed for the edge of Union space, toward the uncharted systems. Zaurex knew where they were going. He also knew they were weak. He gathered his officers. We end this now. Prepare a strike team. I'm going after their commander myself. His officers exchanged glances but obeyed without question. Zaurex wasn't taking chances. He would deal with Eric Holt face to face. Hours later, a small Union strike ship broke away from the damaged fleet. Inside it, Zaurex stood in full combat armor, his black eyes cold and focused. His claws tightened around his staff weapon. He was going to capture Eric Holt. He was going to break the leader of humanity's last fleet. On the Iron Heart, the alarm sounded again. Unknown ship approaching. One officer reported. Small. Single signature. Eric frowned. Put on screen. The image showed a sleek, black Union strike craft. It wasn't a warship. It was fast, designed for boarding. Open hailing channel, Eric ordered. A moment later, Zaurex appeared on the screen. His voice was sharp and steady. Commander Holt, you've made your choice. I'm here to end this myself. Eric stared at the alien leader. You've already lost 2 fleets, Zaurex. You should turn back before you lose more. Zaurex's black eyes narrowed. You speak of loss, but it is humanity that will lose everything. Surrender now, or I will finish what I started. Eric stood tall. Come and try. Zaurex's ship latched onto the Iron Heart. The hull groaned as the boarding tube connected. Eric turned to Admiral Chun. Hold the ship. No one follows me. Chun grabbed his arm. Commander, don't do this alone. I have to, Eric said quietly. This ends with me and him. He pulled his sidearm and walked toward the docking bay. Inside the dark, empty hangar, Eric waited. Zaurex stepped through the hatch, tall and armored. His claws clicked on the floor. His staff weapon hummed with energy. They stood facing each other in silence. Eric spoke first. This doesn't have to end in blood. Zaurex's voice was like steel. You've already spilled more blood than any species should be allowed. You used a weapon that no world should ever touch. Eric's jaw tightened. I did what I had to do to keep my people alive. Zaurex took a step closer. Survival at any cost makes you a danger to all life. The Union was right to exile you. Eric raised his weapon. Exile isn't survival. It's slow death. Zaurex lifted his staff. Then die quickly. The two charged at each other. Zaurex struck first, swinging his staff in a wide arc. Eric ducked and fired a sidearm. The blast hit Zaurex's armor, but didn't stop him. Zaurex moved fast for his size. His staff struck Eric's shoulder, sending him to the floor. Eric rolled, grabbed a loose pipe, and swung it into Zaurex's side. The fight was brutal. Metal rang out. Weapons clashed. Both men bled. Zaurex pinned Eric against the wall. Your kind brings only war, Zaurex growled. You don't belong among the stars. Eric pushed back with all his strength, forcing Zaurex off balance. We're not looking for a place among you anymore, Eric said through clenched teeth. We're leaving your galaxy behind. Zaurex froze for a moment. What do you mean? Eric lowered his weapon slightly. We're done fighting. We'll leave this galaxy. Forever. We'll go beyond Union space. We'll never return. Zaurex studied him carefully. You expect me to believe that? It's not a trick, Eric said. We've taken enough lives. We've lost enough of our own, but we won't stay and die in your cage. Zaurix lowered his staff slowly. If you run, you will never come back. You will never be welcome. Eric nodded. We understand. Zaurix stepped back. Then go. Take your fleet. Leave. But if you ever return, the Union will finish what it started. Eric lowered his weapon completely. Agreed. Without another word, Zaurix turned and boarded his ship. The docking tube retracted. The small Union craft detached and disappeared into the stars. Eric stood alone in the hangar, breathing hard. The fight was over. The war was done. He knew what he had to do next. The Iron Heart stood quiet in deep space. The battle was over. The Union had withdrawn. The enemy fleet was gone. But no one on the bridge celebrated. Commander Eric Holt returned to his post, his face marked by bruises and cuts from the fight with Zaurix. He carried the weight of every decision he had made. The faces of those they had lost stayed with him. The silence in the command deck felt heavier than ever. Admiral Chun stood beside him. Did you make a deal? She asked softly. Eric nodded. We leave. We don't come back. They let us go if we stay away forever. Chun lowered her head. And Earth. Eric turned toward the display, showing their home world far behind them. It was just a small, glowing ball of blue and green, getting smaller with every hour. They've made their choice to stay, Eric replied. But we can give humanity a future out there, away from the Union. Eric opened a fleet-wide channel. His voice carried to every ship, every crew member, every corner of the fleet. This is Commander Holt. The Union has agreed to let us go, but we are not going home. Our mission has changed. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We are leaving this galaxy. We will go beyond the Union's reach. We will find new stars, new systems, a place where humanity can survive and build again. He looked around at the crew. Every face turned toward him. We may never see Earth again, but we will not be hunted. We will not be locked in the dark. We are the Exodus Armada, and our future lies ahead. The bridge crew stood silent for a moment. Then, one by one, they nodded. No one argued. No one hesitated. They all knew the cost, but they also knew the truth. There was nothing left for them here. In the hours that followed, the fleet prepared for the longest journey they had ever faced. Navigation officers plotted a course beyond the known galaxy. Engineers worked to repair what they could. Pilots ran system checks. The fleet's engines powered up one last time. Eric stood at the viewing deck, staring at Earth. His home. His past. He placed his hand on the glass. Goodbye, he whispered. He knew most of the people on Earth would never understand what had happened out here. They would never know how close they had come to total destruction. Maybe it was better that way. Admiral Chin joined him, looking out at the stars. Do you think they'll remember us? She asked quietly. Eric sighed. Maybe. Maybe not. But we'll remember them. The final countdown began. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Exodus Armada jumped into the unknown. One by one, the ships vanished into the darkness beyond the edge of the galaxy. Engines flashed. Lights streaked across the void. And then they were gone. No signals. No transmissions. Nothing but the empty stars. Some say the Union watched from a distance as the humans disappeared. Some say Zaurix stood on the bridge of the Vorex Prime, wondering if they would ever return. But no one followed them. No one chased them. The deal was done. Humanity had left the galaxy behind. They carried nothing but hope and the will to survive. Their journey had just begun. But for Earth, and for the galaxy they left behind,